Hey, I'm Jessica. If you love cars as much as I do, you're in the right place. From drifting car days to uncovering the world's most iconic rides, gear up and subscribe to Race with Jessica for non-stop car fun.
Ford Bronco is not selling for these 7 shocking reasons. After the massive buzz surrounding the return of the legendary nameplate, it seems like things have started cooling off for 3.5 years. This has been the hottest off-road vehicle on the market, but things have shifted. Dramatically in recent months or so. In June, sales numbers were down 28% year over year, and the identical pattern persisted in the subsequent months. If you're curious why, well, the Ford Bronco is not selling well for these 7 shocking reasons. Number 7. Price. At the time it was revived, one of the primary factors for its enormous success was the competitive pricing during the first year. Its starting price beat Wrangler's entry price. However, things began to shift as the Bronco was gaining more traction. The price kept climbing upward at the same time. The Wrangler pricing remained significantly more consistent, so eventually things flipped around, and the Wrangler turned into a more budget-friendly choice. Then Ford eliminated its most affordable trim, so the difference between the two vehicles grew even larger. If you check out the current pricing in 2026, the cheapest Bronco runs over $44,000 at the same time. The most budget-friendly Wrangler starts at less than $33,500. Of course, the entry-level Bronco has better equipment, but still the difference is far too substantial for shoppers hunting for lower-priced options, especially if we factor in that the most fundamental Wrangler remains a superior off-roader than the most fundamental Bronco, which we will discuss in a few moments. Of course, the Bronco can advance considerably in terms of off-road capability, but that arrives at a fairly steep price. Mid-tier choices exceed $53,000. While if you desire to acquire the most capable trims, such as the Bronco Raptor, you might approach 6 figures. That's insane. Number 6. Interior quality. The Ford Bronco might fundamentally be an off-roader, but it's still a contemporary SUV that's only been available for a handful of years. And while its cabin styling may appear more imaginative than the Wranglers and more premium, initially, it's not precisely at the standard of craftsmanship you would anticipate. At this price bracket, yes, there are a few upscale-looking sections throughout the cabin, but generally most of it consists of rigid and quite rough plastic. Most of the panels are not especially comfortable to the touch, even though Ford executed a decent job of making them appear appealing thanks to creative color combinations and contours. Then there's the backseat zone, where you could discover even lower-grade materials. Not only that, the Bronco is missing some fairly crucial amenities, such as rear cup holders. Some even voiced concerns about the absence of AC vents in the rear row, but given the vehicle's mission, we wouldn't consider this as a shortcoming. Squeaks and rattles are a typical occurrence in the Bronco's cabin, while tech enthusiasts and sound quality fans wouldn't be satisfied with an audio setup, which is average at best. Finally, don't overlook the hardtop, which is rather complex and considerably heavy to remove, and demands 2 fairly robust adults to accomplish the task. Number 5. Ride quality. While the Wrangler is engineered to deliver uncompromised off-road capability with its solid front and rear axles, Ford engineers have attempted to make their off-roader somewhat more adaptable and somewhat more pleasant on the asphalt. Therefore, instead of solid front axles, they incorporated an independent suspension configuration at the front. The concept was to provide a decent compromise in both areas, but the distinction isn't particularly noticeable in practice. Yes, the Wrangler behaves slightly stiffer on the paved surface, but we can't claim the Bronco is a notably comfortable SUV to operate, though those seeking a blend of both environments would still choose a unibody crossover. With a capable all-wheel drive configuration, the Bronco simply can't disguise its authentic character, full of extreme body roll in turns and ride that still feels harsh compared to modern crossovers. At the same time, the Bronco's front suspension doesn't appear as tough and long-lasting enough to rival a Wrangler solid axle. All things considered, we don't believe that this suspension arrangement is an especially excellent middle ground. Number 4. Sound insulation. Those seeking a refined and peaceful ride likely won't look at the Bronco in the first place, but things get even more challenging once they discover that the noise isolation is even inferior than they probably anticipated. Boxy silhouette, massive off-road tires, elevated ground clearance, those are all elements that lead to the extreme racket on the freeway. but there are a few additional things to mention. For example, insulation for hardtop versions is not especially effective. Moreover, most buyers were disappointingly shocked with the performance of the insulation, so the only answer was to install an extra one for the hardtop. However, that doesn't appear to be sufficient, so some buyers attempted various supplementary approaches to reduce the noise down. They attempted to seal the doors and trunk area, but it seems like there isn't much to accomplish to combat the Bronco's weak aerodynamic design. Number 3. Not the most reliable powertrain options. When engineering the new Bronco, Ford designers wanted to make it dominant over the Wrangler in terms of output, so the decision was on turbocharged power plants, which may be stronger in terms of pulling power and overall fuel economy, but can never be as dependable as naturally aspirated alternatives. So, the Ford SUV arrives with a pair of quite remarkable powertrain choices, with 335 horsepower as well as a 422 horsepower Bronco Raptor. But it emerged these power plants aren't especially suitable for an off-roader that needs to be extremely reliable and robust. Namely, these power plants already possessed a history of malfunctions, and even though some assumed that issues would be resolved before the Bronco's debut that didn't occur, problems persisted. Starting from the base 2.3-liter Turbo 4 and its notorious troubles with a turbo wastegate, which resulted in so many Ford vehicles having critical early issues with their turbochargers. Moreover, some buyers documented troubles with the cooling mechanism and temperature problems in general. Finally, several months ago, Ford issued a recall on Bronco models with this power plant. Manufactured in recent production runs due to the inadequate seal at the cylinder head oil gallery plug, which causes significant oil leakage from the engine block, which dramatically raises the risk of breakdown. Ford directed dealerships to swap the power plants at no expense to the buyers. On the other hand, the bigger and more potent 2.7-liter V6 continues to be troublesome in terms of its valve mechanism responsible for the absence of acceleration failure to ignite and other complications. It appears like Ford still hasn't fixed this problem, despite the countless grievances. Number 2. Transmission. Transmission has never been the most robust aspect of the new Bronco, which is no shock if we acknowledge it's the identical unit that has been utilized in the Ranger truck in various mid-size SUVs, like the Explorer. That transmission has been troublesome for quite some time for multiple factors. And just like other buyers, Bronco buyers have been documenting things like gear slippage or clutch dragging. Moreover, instances of burning odor are fairly widespread. Under tougher use, rough gear transitions, especially downshifts, are yet another complication linked with this gearbox, and what's especially fascinating is that all of these complications emerge at very minimal mileage. Fortunately, it appears like Ford is conscious that the complication exists, so dealerships provide full replacement at no charge, though the sole challenge is that it typically requires weeks for the service to be completed. The challenge with the 7-speed manual appears to be fairly severe, considering that Ford already terminated manufacturing of manual Broncos at the conclusion of last year. Number 1. Better off-roader than the Wrangler? Not really. The iconic nameplate, along with the throwback styling, is the most powerful selling feature of the Bronco, but let's not dismiss the off-road capability. The Bronco was engineered with one objective in mind: to defeat the Wrangler. And we're not certain if that's accurate. Both vehicles are outstanding off-roaders with so many available modifications. But when it comes to entry trims, we still think that the Wrangler is a superior deal, especially if we acknowledge a considerably lower beginning price, because we favor the Wrangler's solid front axle when it comes to off-road toughness and dependability. Though the significantly more critical thing is that the entry Bronco features a relatively modest 8.4 inches of ground clearance. Wrangler, on the other hand, positions at 9.7 inches from the surface in its most fundamental trim. Furthermore, the Wrangler also has larger tires, 31-inch, all-terrain rubber compared to the Bronco's 30-inch wheels. Of course, both the Wrangler and the Bronco can be notably better off-roaders, considering all the enhancements that arrive with the premium trim packages. Top-tier trims, the Raptor and Rubicon 392 are comparable in terms of delivered capability, with locking differentials, enhanced suspension, and remarkable ground clearance. Both vehicles can venture 34 inches deep into the water. Not to forget that both vehicles are obtainable in high-performance versions, but even in this dimension, we would grant the Wrangler and its recently discontinued variant a minor edge, not only because of more output, but also because of the exceptional acoustic characteristics of that glorious Hemi V8 power plant. But once more, these types of enhancements cost a small fortune. When we discuss strictly about base versions, we think that the Wrangler still maintains the advantage in terms of delivered capability, not to forget that we still have slightly more confidence in that proven naturally aspirated V6 compared to Ford's problematic Turbo 4. If you got something out of this, make sure to subscribe and click that notification bell so you catch all my new videos. Thanks for watching, and catch you in the next one.